有个从12世纪至今原貌不变的城镇，被誉为最幸福丹麦人的居住社区。这里曾经是大帆船时代的繁荣港口，也是飞鱼买卖贸易中心。16世纪初，被丹麦渔民和荷兰农民分割，纷争不断。这个城镇就是丹麦的德拉厄。人潮熙攘的商业街上，女人们3、5成群或独自逛街。这个景象不仅在印度其他地区少见，也是这片独特土地的标志。这里是印度东北独有的女儿国，也是全国最不想生儿子的地方。午后温阳挥洒，梅加拉雅邦的山谷云雾缭绕，这里被誉为白云的栖息之地。梅加指的就是云雾，拉雅则代表这片迷人的地方。而首府西隆因为风景优美，成为印度人心目中天堂般的所在。
如果说喜隆是天堂，那么我觉得梅加拉雅是女人的天堂。因为这里是印度著名的女儿国，在梅加拉雅的居民主要都是由卡西族、加罗族还有贾伊利亚族他们组成的。这3个民族是世界上少有还在奉行母系社会的民族。
位于西隆市中心的 Yodo 市场是印度东北最大的传统市场，也被认为是最能够展现印度女儿国女人当道的地方。在这里，无论是店铺还是摊档，很多都是由女性主导经营。葛凡特别在这儿约见了卡西族律师阿尼斯。
今天阿迪约我来市场走一走，没想到这边真的人好多，要找到他都是一件很困难的事情。他到底在哪？Hey, Anis. Hi. It was so hard to find you. You were here. Oh, it's such a busy market here.
It is. It's quite busy here.
I saw many women working here. Are they also Khasi women?
Yeah, majority of them are Khasis, and it's pretty normal for them to have a business in the market.
And what about Khasi men?
Sometimes the Khasi men of the family help around. Some are daily wage laborers, so they go to different places to work.
一般卡西族人会特地前往 Yodo 市场，准备重大节日所需要的物品。这里占地面积广大，划分成不同的区域，售卖各种类型的商品，即使花上一整天的时间，也难以逛完。
Anis, I see they're selling a lot of this.
This is called kwai, betel nut. You usually use it after lunch or after dinner, like a mouth freshener.
Can I try?
Yes, you can.
啊，要来吃吃看他们的槟榔。Have you tried it before?
Yeah, everyone in Meghalaya has tried this one.
我连在台湾都没有吃过槟榔，来到印度居然可以尝尝槟榔的滋味是什么
Chew on, just chew. Yeah.
？Just like that. 很硬。
It's quite hard.
How do we eat? It's very hard. It's not chewy. 他们说可以嚼，这怎么嚼啊？
It's quite hard.
我觉得我牙齿都要把它咬断。哦，有个苦味。It tastes like wood. Do you like this kind of taste? It's good.
We usually use the betel leaf as well.
Along with the betel leaves.
Why didn't you tell me before? 他为什么不早说？这个味道真的是非常的重，很像在吃木头。难怪你都不想吃。No wonder you didn't want to try 啊！
在梅加拉亚邦，卡西族男女经常食用混合槟榔叶和生槟榔制成的潘达木。传统说，槟榔是上帝赠予的礼物，不分贫富，供待客之用，象征着社会的平等。这 这种平等在卡西族妇女身上表现得格外鲜明。她们的妇女遵循着明确的社会层级，享有独特地位，扮演着维系家族血脉的重要角色，尤其是被称为卡杜的小女儿。为了更深入了解卡西族妇女，葛凡特别拜访了阿尼斯家族的关键成员之一哈西娜。
So this is the 85 years old house, and I was born in this house.
Wow, you grew up in a beautiful place.
Thank you.
So this is the living room.
Yes, so this is a typical Khasi architectural house. Very, very few of these houses are existing today.
卡西族的建筑结构独具特色，采用了半砖半木的设计，能够实现冬暖夏凉的效果。木质窗户框架和使用了50-60年的陈年家具，彰显了卡西族家居的独特风格。
These are like earthquake resilience because they are just made with a little bit of lime and then it's a little bit of sand.
I can imagine this can resist an earthquake. And it doesn't look old, it's so new. It's very well kept.
I guess when you're the youngest daughter and you're the custodian, you normally have to take care to maintain these old houses for the different generation of the family.
身为卡西族家庭的小女儿，哈西娜不仅继承了最多的财产，还担任家族和氏族事务的全权管理者，同时负有照顾其他兄弟姊妹以及年长父母的责任。但是这些财产并不属于他个人所有，而是他所隶属的氏族，他仅仅充当管理与分配的角色。
And I see so many photos here. Are they your
Yes,
nieces?
yes. But then they all moved out, you know, when they all grew up. So right now, it's just me and my mom because I'm the youngest daughter. So in a matrilineal society, the youngest daughter, the Kaddo, lives with the mother.
yeah.
This home is always a home where they come and meet the grandmother. And I basically say when you're a custodian, it's also getting the family together.
Together.
与女儿不同，卡西族的男性无权继承不动产，他们在婚前挣的钱属于他的母亲，而婚后所得则归妻子和孩子所有。因此，卡西族社会戏称大家都希望娶小女儿，因为她在男性中被视为珍贵之物。
So this is my mom.
Hi.
She is 94 now, and she's going to be 95.
How do you say hello
So
in Khasi?
in Khasi, Kublai.
Kublai.
In Khasi name, we say May. Mother means May.
Kublai, May. Is that right?
Yes, that's
Did I get it
right.
Did she understand me?
Yes, she does.
在卡西族社会中，母系家族的最大单位是氏族。这个社会单位由祖母、女儿和孙女儿组成，构成了卡西族最典型的家庭结构。每个氏族可以追溯到一位女性祖先，也就是氏族谱系的祖母。在她有生之年，她都是这个家庭的一家之主哦。
The women takes a really important role in this society.
Yes, but we are not a matriarchal. We are a matrilineal. We have a lineage which goes through a woman. Our surname is through the woman.
Yes.
When you still have a mother in the house, we consult, so I have to keep consulting her. But the maternal uncle still play a very, very important role when it comes to family matters, family gatherings, decisions. That's called the maternal uncle.
Okay.
由于被赋予家族管理的责任，大多数卡西族小女儿都选择留在家里照料氏族事务和家人。然而，现代女性哈森娜照顾年迈母亲之余，还得兼顾繁忙的事业。尽管工作忙碌，她仍然坚守传统，回到祖宅履行传承的责任。
So she's very unhappy that I'm still like singly, not having kids and not taking my next generation. So she say, how will this generation carry without kids?
Being the youngest daughter in the house, does it make you more attractive to men?
Well, I would say when a Khasi woman gets married, the husband come and live with the woman.
he becomes your family.
Yes, he becomes part of this family. That is the challenge of today's world because a lot of men too, in our matrilineal society, feel that they should be more independent, they should have a nuclear family.
所以在传统的卡西族家庭里面，的确之前都是3代同堂，但是因为现在的人大家都希望有自己的家庭，自己出来组家庭，所以慢慢的在失去了这个传统。
There's still a lot of family like me who's preserving it very much because we want this culture to exist, we want this practice to exist.
母系社会为梅加拉雅邦的女性提供了更多自由与独立，她们可以自由选择恋爱对象，也可以离婚，但是在自由的袈裟底下，她们就真的无忧无虑了吗？这群崇尚单身万岁的卡西族女性，要与葛凡分享她们的故事。
Why do you keep single?
I like my freedom.
You like your freedom. What kind of freedom do you like?
In a Khasi society, we are not forced to get married. It's all about your choice,
In Meghalaya, the Khasi women, they are more freedom. They have more freedom. Is it true?
Yes.
We have more freedom, no doubt about it, but we do face a lot of problems. Because if a woman is married and husbands leave her, that means the husband doesn't have anything to do with it, no responsibility. And then we also have domestic violence, which is quite high in the society, which is not actually showing the society, but it's high.
Evangeline, I know that you're a single mother, but you are not divorced. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
We just live separately. The reason is we are not feeling compatible with each other as the time passes by. So problems after problems, so it's better that we live separately for the betterment of the child only. Because if every day they see those things taking place in the family, then they might be psychologically affected.
But again, women in the Khasi society are very strong.
Very strong.
We have the support of our family.
You don't have to do it alone.
Yes.
Alone.
Yeah. Do you feel proud being a Khasi woman?
Yes, of course. Looking at the, our friends from another part of the country, being in a material society, I think we are more privileged.
这次跟他们聊完天啊，对卡西的女人有了更多的了解，知道她们在社会上其实不容易。虽然她们有更多的自由，但是同时间她们也扛起了更多的责任。我觉得她们啊，真的是女战士，非常勇敢，我非常敬佩她们。
星期天是卡西族忙着上教堂做礼拜，或者回祖宅和家人用餐聚会的大日子。这种聚会对于维系卡西族家庭来说，具有重要而深刻的意义。在哈西娜与阿尼斯的热情邀请下，葛凡也出席了这一场家庭聚会。
哇，好丰富的午餐啊！
We have traditional food today.
Wow.
So we have rice with neyong. So it's actually a traditional Khasi rice that they normally cook.
And what about this one?
That is putaro. It's a Khasi bread. Chicken neyong, which is with black sesame.
Is it like only in Khasi that they don't put so spicy in their food?
Khasis don't have spices.
Oh.
It's basically just
Yeah.
Onions, ginger, and garlic.
所以我没有想到，我以为在印度啊吃的食物都会是有一种辛香料，会比较偏辣。但是卡西族他们的食物完全不辣，完全一点点的辣都没有。
阿内斯在哈森纳的家族中是一个特别的存在，因为他的父亲娶了一位外族女性，但是还是坚持遵循传统，冠上妻子的姓氏。
Since my mother is not Khasi, she had to convert and take the surname of the Khasi, which was newly formed. Then it was passed on to me and my sister.
And what about you? How do you consider yourself?
Since I belong to both sides of the tribe, I consider someone in between.
Have you ever faced like identity confusion?
Yeah, a lot of times actually. I don't look traditional Khasi, right?
So this is not Cassie?
Yeah. So a lot of people when I moved to this locality in the beginning, a lot of kids my age, they used to tease me as an outsider, but all that was only in the beginning.
因为我自己也是算是个有身份认同的问题，我是巴拉圭人，但是我有着台湾的外表，所以要再这样长大，我们真的需要去找到一个身份的认同，而且像他刚刚说的，我们是找 middle， 我们其实是一个中间人。You cannot take your surname and pass it on. How do you feel about that?
I feel very bad about it.
You feel very bad about it? You want to keep your surname on?
Because now it's only in my sister's hands.
And what about you, the young generation? How do you feel about this?
Since I'm the only child, so it feels, I feel kind of sad.
So the surname of the Cassie stops here?
Yeah, it's
If you don't have any sister coming?
No. If I don't have any sisters, then it stops here.
This is how life is, isn't it? That there's a uniqueness of a culture that the world wants to preserve, but it has its challenges as the culture grow.
的确，传统有它传统的价值、传统的美，但是随着时间的改变，随着城市化、现代化，它其实在创造一个新的世界，我们从中也可以看到它的美好。So let's embrace the change.
Yes. So this is where we are, Albert.
Okay.
This is Hosnara, the innovator of Lamlin tea. That's Albert.
Hello.
And all the farmers, yes.
Hi everyone.
在西隆，哈斯娜是备受尊敬的社会活动家。自少女时期起，她就积极参与各种社会发展工作，并且成立了非营利组织，致力于援助有需求的妇女。今天，她与卡西族的农民会面，共同探讨如何改善他们的生活状况。
The Khasi people, we have a lot of women farmers. I started my work because I saw how people was migrating when there was a lack of economic.
印度政府对森林资源和木材开采的禁令，严重地冲击了许多卡西族社区，尤其是梅加拉亚邦及其周边村庄的妇女，使她们本已不富裕的生活雪上加霜。自幼在卡西族母系社会中成长，哈西娜的生活经历激发了她采取行动的决心。
We empower women as well as the family of all these women so that they have economic, they have livelihood. They will not go out of the state. So then women will not be exploited. They will not be sold for human trafficking. They'll not be sold for sexual exploitation. And it provides expanded economics. Then the whole society becomes much more stronger.
我真的非常佩服 Hasina， 她利用她自己的力量跟影响力去改善整个社会。You're doing such a wonderful job.
Thank you, thank you.
Rihun 是一个典型的卡西族农村妇女，由于家境贫穷，她未能接受正规教育，不得不投身农务工作。幸运的是，她继承了母亲名下的一部分农田。
我们就是要先松土，然后呢挖成小洞，这会再把种子放进去，今天的工作应该就完成了。好热 ，It's hot. Your mom gave the property, the farm, to you or to all her daughters and sons?
我的母亲没有多少土地，所以她把土地只分给了5个女儿。
哇，所以儿子都没有份哦。
她也想分一点给儿子，但是因为土地实在不多，所以只好每个孩子都给一些钱。大家都不介意，因为能分到的实在不多。
I know that in Khasi, parents tend to love girls more. Is that true?
不是这样的，像我自己，对我的女儿和儿子都是平等对待，不管我有什么或者是做什么，我都会毫无保留地给他们。
在父权社会之下， 梅加拉亚邦母系社会带来的特权仅限于家庭之中，在农村缺乏教育的妇女，在面对困顿的生活之际，甚至无法掌握自己的命运。Ella 来自偏远的加罗族农村，在她平静的外表下，隐藏着一段鲜为人知的过去。由于家境贫困，她被母亲卖给了2个男人。最初，她以为自己会前往德里的工厂工作，然而命运却将她送入一家妓院。当时她还未成年。
I know it's hard, but is it possible for you to share with me how was your time in the flesh trade?
当我知道自己被卖到妓院之后，我失去了活着的希望，感觉人生走到了尽头。你没有办法想象我当时的生活，他们会把我们打到全身淤青，那种暴行是超出了想象，只因为我们拒绝接客。但是我当时什么也不能做。
Yeah, it's really hard, huh? I can't imagine that life. How did you get rescued?
我碰到一位警察，他喜欢上我，想要把我救出去。于是我就对他说，如果你能够把我跟其他女孩一起救出去，我就嫁给你。
从妓院获救之后， Ella 进入一所德里儿童之家，学习了阅读、写字和刺绣等技能。由于表现出色，她被送到西隆更好的庇护所。尽管她当时失去了对人的信任，却在加入人道组织之后，重新感受到爱与温暖。
But now life is good, right?
Yes. 是的，我现在很开心。我在人道组织工作，我负责辅导那些被营救出来的女孩。我会跟他们聊天，指导他们，然后带他们回家乡。
Now that you have this force to affect people, that makes you happy, right? Yeah. And one thing, I'm so happy that you shared this story with me. I'm so happy that you have a new life. I wonder, what's your future plan?
在经历了这么多之后，我不会期盼未来能比我现在的生活更好。我现在只想把工作做好，开心的生活。
Can I give you a hug? Oh my God. I'm so touched by your story and what you said right now. 看到一些人性最黑暗的那一面，然后现在可以重新回到生活，然后也不再去想未来，只要好好的活着当下。很难想象这种生活是什么。当我听到他说他的未来其实没有什么规划，他只想要好好的工作，好好的生活，我当下其实是非常的激动。一方面我很感动，看到他可以这么坚强，但是另外一方面我很心疼他不得不这么坚强，日子才能过下去。
研究显示，梅加拉亚邦的母系社会可能起源于古代战争时期。在男性祖先无法履行家族或部落责任的情况下，女人承担起了维系家族和延续血脉的责任。如今，在印度父权社会的阴影下，要想继续保持这种传统，女性唯有勇敢自强，才能让这个独特的文化在时间的长河中永存。德拉厄位于丹麦的阿麦厄岛的东南海岸，距离哥本哈根市中心仅12公里。城镇名字前边的 drag 指的是把船拖到岸上，尾词 or 指的是覆盖着沙子或砾石的海滩。德拉厄被描述为船长小镇，显示整个社区与海上运输密不可分。当年这里还是个买卖飞鱼的贸易中心， 随着帆船被蒸汽船所取代，小镇的繁荣时代戛然而止。但城镇和港口的房屋和其他建筑物却得以保存。我们邀请对德拉厄了如指掌的老居民燕讲述这个社区的发展。
When we see the harbour today, you won't find any modern buildings here.
Yes.
And that is the unique thing. Connected with this town, you have a place that looks like it did 200 years ago.
Yes. And what's that over there?
The tower is piloting tower or looking out tower.
引航塔通常用于俯瞰海域，寻找需要引领安全航行的船只。
I wonder, they don't have VHF radios back those days? How would they actually inform the pilots?
They had a special flag.
Oh, so they'll fly the flag?
Yeah, exactly.
所以你看到这个高高的塔呢，上面就是有一个引导船只的人员啊。如果他看到大船要进港，他们就要升旗，然后呢，他们就会出去把它引导进来。
It was a very important job because there were so many ships here, and about 50 families at its highest were living on piloting.
Ian, this is an interesting looking little house. What is this?
It's what we call the pitch house or the cooking house. It was built in the middle of the 18th century. It was used for boiling tar and pitch to repair and tighten the sides of the ships.
Okay.
小仓房原用来煮焦油和沥青，后因外来船只的船员不允许在船上煮食，怕引起火患，后来才使用这间小房来煮饭，成了船员的厨房。
Here we see 3 old houses from the 19th century. The first one is the oldest, and it was built as a quarantine house. In periods where there were many foreign ships coming in, there was a risk of bringing in epidemics.
Yes, diseases and all that. Yeah.
Cholera was in the 19th century.
检疫所建于1831年，当时霍乱疫情正威胁着南部地区，从波罗的海港口过来的船只若被疑为异船，船员和领航员会被隔离在这个检疫所。格林是海关办事处，处理往来的贸易事项。旁边的仓库主要是存放货船卸下的货物，因为港口水深不足，大船无法靠岸，需要小船把货物运载到港口。
So right in front of us, that would be Sweden. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
燕戴明伦到德拉厄城堡旧址，以往是哥本哈根旧防御工程的一部分。
We are here because it's a good position to have an idea of the geographical position of Dragør. We are at Sweden on the other side. We can't see it today because it's not so clear weather, but we can see the bridge.
This leads to Sweden.
This leads to Sweden, yes.
Yep.
And to the south, we have the entrance from the Baltic Sea, and this is their passage to the North Sea and the Atlantic.
Okay.
So this is a very good position for trading and for having contact with other countries.
Yes.
当年这里盛产飞鱼，捕捞和加工行业兴盛，吸引很多来自波罗的海的商人。他们购买飞鱼或设厂，从事飞鱼腌制和装桶的加工业。当年天主教信徒在过节时不能吃红肉，腌制的飞鱼成了重要的替代品。
But around 1500, it suddenly disappeared.
没有人知道飞鱼减少的原因，自此飞鱼买卖中心声望下降，对德拉厄海港造成重大影响。
When the herring fishing stopped at the beginning of the 16th century, the harbor was simply not here. It was all shore. Till the Dutch farmers that came to Stormagleby, they started to bring their cattle to Saltholm to grass. That was one of the privileges they had.
所以呢，也就是说，岛尔这个海港呢，其实最原先就是跟荷兰人移民来到这里有关系，因为他们必须要把他们的马啊，或者是牛羊啊，送到 对岸的小岛，所以他们就需要有大的船只进港，所以他们就开始建一个小的长堤啊，就是这样子慢慢的演变，久而久之，这里就变成了一个大海港。In the end, what happened to the harbor? Why did it stop?
It stopped because it was not able to house steamships.
当蒸汽船出现后，一些船主打算扩建和加深港口，却未能取得成功，贸易停滞不前。
And as everything stopped, the town stopped its development.
被世界文化遗产提名的德拉厄古城，被誉为最幸福丹麦人的居住社区。传统丹麦风格的鹅卵石街道，黄色房屋与门前栽种的翠绿花草相互辉映，宁静恬适。穿梭其中犹如迷宫，许多房屋保存完整，其中的76间为国家级保护建筑。
So here we are standing in front of an old bakery. You could ask, why is there such a big bakery in such a small town? The answer is that people could not bake their own bread because the houses were so tight, and they should have the oven outside the house. It was fired with wood, and it was too dangerous.
他们家里呢都不能够有烤炉，因为很危险啊。然后所以呢，他们都得要到这个镇里面去买面包。I realized that there are these symbols at the side walls of the houses. What are they?
They're actually not symbols. They're kind of anchors to keep the timber that bears the floor and the ceiling and makes the house standing.
OK， 所以它其实是用来固定那个屋梁的，所以也就是说那边就是2楼的地板。
By the way, the two-story houses is a signal of certain wealth. We call them skipper houses.
所以呢，船长可以住2层楼的房子 ，OK？ 因为那个时候船长赚的钱比较多，但是他们还是属于比较谦虚的，他们不会说要很突出，所以呢，他们的房子的颜色全部都差不多一样。还有你会发现，有一些人的大门口下面呢是2个阶梯的。啊，这个就代表说，以前这里是船长住的地方。如果是平的，没有阶梯，那就是渔民住的地方啊。
延斯艾伯特广场以船长的名字命名。广场中央的水井是18世纪打的，也是这座城市唯一的公共水井。
So this is like a little square.
Yeah, because the houses are so tight, you need to have squares where you could meet people and talk.
Yes, 这就有一点像我们家楼下的广场这样子，大家都可以出来互动一下。跟你们讲一个很有趣的一个故事，就是在这个镇里面呢，就家家户户都是会养鹅，然后呢，他们就会把他们的鹅送到对岸的一个小岛。1年后，每只鹅都吃到肥肥胖胖之后呢，他们才会把它们送回来这里。那么一到海港，那些鹅就会自己跑回家哦。然后你看看，这里有一个很特别的门，就是让这些鹅自己回家的，很有趣哦。这个，Yes, I realized that there are some houses that are particularly smaller, like these ones and all those over there.
Yeah.
What are they?
They are bleaching houses. You must know that nearly every man was sailing and it was dangerous. They died, often they drowned.
在那个年代呢，就很多男人都出去航海了，有些淹死了，有的是病死。那这里呢，就多了很多的寡妇。那么为了让他们的生活能够有所改善，他们就开始织布、卖布。可是他们的布呢很粗糙，而且颜色也不好看。那后来呢，就有了这些软房，他们就会拿布拿去漂白，这些布料啊也成为了他们的特产。今天早上呢下了一场雨啊，所以今天的天气是一点阴阴的，而且还有一点冷啊。那我今天被一位老居民呢邀请我到他的家，哎，正好，那这样子我可以去参观一下他家的样子是怎么样的。Very nice， 这里很宽敞哦。 Yeah. 而且它这边有一个偏厅，有一个大厅。
These are the original tiles made in the Friesland in northern part of Holland or Germany. They may be around 300 years old.
Wow. So the more tiles they have probably belongs to a very wealthy person.
The more tiles, the more wealthy.
I'm sure.
For instance, this door here was originally painted by Christian Mølsted, who lived here.
Wow, beautiful.
So that is more than 100 years old.
And I really like this dining room. It's wide and spacious and bright.
偌大窗口带来窗明几净，却抵挡不住外边好奇探索的窥探。聪明的居民倒想出了一个绝妙的方法。
你知道这是什么吗？从旁边这里看是一面镜子哦，就是说你不用打开窗口，你都可以从里面看到外面在发生什么事情。所以他们这个也是一种邻里互助的一种方法吧。如果从里面看到，好像有一些什么可疑的人物走来走去啊，他们就可以通知邻居。挺好的。
在德拉厄，居民们重视社区睦邻精神，邻里之间关系密切。大多数住家的后院都是相连的，方便居民串门。
就这样子就是串门了，你看是从后门过去的。Your neighbor is not expecting you. It's okay.
Hi.
It's a big surprise, I believe.
Yes.
Mr. Carson was just saying, amongst the neighbors, you just cross over and say hello and all that. I'm Darren. I'm from Singapore. Nice to meet you. All right, we shouldn't impose on you. Thank you so much. Have a good day. So what attracted you to come to this township?
We were looking for a place where we could have boats because I was sailing. This was an obvious choice, close to Copenhagen.
I heard that you wanted to be under the UNESCO heritage, but the residents in this neighborhood decided not to.
Yeah. We were working against it because that would attract even more tourists. Big buses, a lot of traffic. We don't need more tourists than we have today. It's okay.
打开知名度，迎来游客，对居民或许造成干扰，对老街店铺却是商机。我们意外发现，有家冰淇淋店的老板娘竟然是新加坡人，她勉为其难答应受访。
今天真的是很兴奋，也很开心，因为呢，我在这里遇到了一个新加坡人，我们新加坡的朋友，他在这里生活了很多年啊。So you've been here for many years, right? What brought you here?
She met this handsome guy. Well, I was once, I don't know, but I wasn't looking like that.
Can you tell me why? Why do you choose to live here?
I lived here since I was 1 year old. My parents had the summer house out on the beach here, so I would stay basically half of the time in this place and half the town right in the middle of Copenhagen.
What was it like for you when you first came here?
Freedom. And air and the space.
Very fresh air.
Yeah. You feel like you have more time, more free, like not so much pressure.
And this very nice local place where everybody knows each other. Yeah, lovely, really.
Lovely, nice, very nice. Thank you. 这里的景观跟海港那边啊就截然不同。它以前呢是荷兰人的一个社区。我很好奇，荷兰人为什么会移民到这里呢？
由几栋古老农舍改为的阿麦尔博物馆，其中的室内陈设和装饰都是历史文物和原件，是了解当年这个叫 Stormby 的荷兰小镇的最佳场域。当年，丹麦国王邀请一群来自荷兰的农民，在该地区定居，为王室生产粮食。这些农民享有特权，加上禁止异族通婚，保留了自己的语言。当时这个地方也被称为荷兰城。
There came 184 people,
and
that was 24 families. They got a letter of privilege from the king.
当时的国王就是 Christian II， 他邀请了24户人家来到这里，因为他们当时的农耕技术呢是比丹麦更加的先进。这些荷兰人呢，他们可以用这里的土地，不需要缴税，提供蔬菜水果给王室。
In here we have our traditional costumes. Yeah, that was the clothes you used to wear.
Quite elaborated, eh?
Yeah, it's mainly to go to church and to the parties.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yeah. So now we're going into the living room, and this room is called Dirk Jansen. He was the founder of the museum, so it's a lot of his things inside here.
I see. So this is more like a dining room?
Yeah, it's a dining room, bedroom, because it's the only room which is heated.
Oh.
Behind the curtains, there's a lot of pillows.
Yeah.
The more pillows you had, the wealthier you were, because it's only for rich people to have that many.
哇哦，这个床它也是一种财富的象征。那一张被单呢，要40只鹅的鹅毛做成，所以它这边叠得很高，也就等于说它要用很多只鹅的鹅毛来做成。所以这个就是一进来你看到，哇，这个人的床这么高，他肯定是很有钱。So this is the kitchen.
Yes, that's the kitchen. That's where they cook, and it was of course only the girls. No men.
No man is allowed to come here.
No.
Hey, what's this?
Yeah, it's kind of a dried bread.
And it's interesting why they hang it up like
Yeah,
this.
it's because of the mice.
哦，这样也是一个挺聪明的做法。好，把它挂起来，老鼠就偷吃不到了。Wow, this is a big room.
Yes, it's a big room. It was not used for everyday life. It was only used for like weddings, baptism, and also if somebody in the family had died.
哦，这间房间呢是很特别的。如果是有人过世了，他们就会把尸体呢摆在这张桌子上让家人来道别，那最后呢就会把它放到棺材里头，然后就从这个门出去。这个门呢很特别，它只是这一边有手把，另外一边是没有手把的。如果没有这个门，就会通过窗口；如果没有窗口，就在墙上挖一个洞。不能够从大门出去的原因，是因为他们担心它会变成孤魂野鬼。
由于保有特权，这批荷兰移民和沿海的丹麦渔民及水手之间关系紧张，时有政治冲突事件发生。当年，荷兰移民将他们种植的新鲜蔬菜拿到哥本哈根的市集上售卖，因此也有了哥本哈根厨房储藏室的称号。
那今天这个社区呢是第一次举办 Skippers Townsday， 就是为了要纪念当年他们这个海港很繁华的年代，还有呢教育后辈，让他们了解一下以前这个渔港他们这里的人们的生活，他们的作息是怎么样的。好，那里面有很多的活动，去看看。
Hello, I'm Martin.
Hi, I'm Darren. Nice to meet you. So what's going on here today?
I'm doing some kind of role playing, telling about his life. He is my great-great-great-grandfather. In the 19th century, he was the biggest ship owner in this town, in Aue. Yeah. He owned 12 ships.
Wow.
So this is one of them.
So basically, over here today, you're featuring all the things that sailors would be eating.
Yeah, that's right.
我们航海的时候就要担心说吃什么样的蔬菜，因为不是所有的蔬菜都能够在海上耐这么久，所以我们一般都是吃很多根类洋葱这些都是非常有营养的食物。这是用玉蜀黍做的，
kind of smoked beer.
Black beer.
Yeah. This is ship's beer, and it's made on smoked corn.
是哦，有点苦苦，因为它是烟熏的嘛。
It takes the homesick.
Takes away the homesick. OK. 他说那些船员如果他们想家啦、生病啦，他们喝这个就不会这么想家。
So when you went sailing with the old sailing ships, you had to bring some food.
Yep.
And you could bring the Danish brown bread.
Brown bread.
And you could bring potatoes.
Potatoes.
But they could not last very long. You had to bring some biscuits.
Because they are drier, they can last for a much longer time. 这个饼干真的很硬很硬，哇哦！不小心的话牙齿都断掉。 哇，你看这艘船，它从1943年保留到现在，而且还是非常的漂亮。那这艘船呢，是当时德国占领丹麦的时候，他们就用这艘船载送犹太人到瑞典去。当年呢，就有700多个犹太人从这里逃难，逃到瑞典去。Nice to meet you. Yeah, I like the sound of the engine. Single piston, huh?
Single piston, 2-stroke semi-diesel.
啊，你来看看，这个是很原始、很古老的引擎啊，这种是柴油引擎，而且保留的真的是很好啊。
多拉厄浑朴从容，静谧如一，多了几分的踏实生活气息。这幸福看似微小而简单，但要能恒长而确定，绝对不易。持久守护，才能孕育出俯拾即是的小确幸。